It is time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us are the Times Northern sports correspondent Martin Hardy and the Daily Mail's football editor Ian Ladyman. Welcome to you both. Let me quickly run you through the back pages. We'll start with the Mail. They lead with Thomas Tuchel. I love England, the headline. Three Lions German boss Tuchel hints he could stay on after the World Cup. They also focus on rugby union and England's matchup against Fiji. The Smiths are ready to rock, they say. And there's an interesting line here as well from Ruben Amorim about his striker, Benjamin Sesko. He must learn to take criticism, says his manager. In The Guardian, they have a really big interview with Frank Lampard, Sky Blue thinker. Frank Lampard on masterminding Coventry's climb towards the top flight. They also focus on the England boss, Thomas Tuchel, as well. Extra time, they say. Tuchel may stay on regardless of World Cup fates. And Jonathan Wilson looks ahead to the Manchester City-Liverpool Premier League showdown at transition time for City and Liverpool, the headline there. Meanwhile, in The Star, also lead with Tuchel, the headline to stay. They also carry the news that Régis Lebris is going to go for it against Arsenal in the Premier League. And the news that Preston's Militon Osmajic has been banned for 9 games after an independent commission found that he racially abused Burnley's Hannibal Mejbri. As with many of the other papers, The Telegraph also carry the story on Tuchel, open to staying on after the World Cup. They also focus on Ellis Genge's warning over so many nasty Fijians. And The Times, what have they gone with? Well, they have an exclusive interview with England's Harry Brook. I don't like cricket, I love it, he says. Plus the Tuchel news that he may stay on after the World Cup as well. And Haaland, Erling Haaland, a man in incredible form, warns Liverpool, yes, I am in the form of my life. Well, as you saw after the England team announcement, many of the back pages, many of the sports pages dealing with Thomas Tuchel. And an interesting line that came out about that, Martin, was the fact that he's opened the door to the possibility that he could stay on after the World Cup. He says it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, he seems to be enjoying the job, and that is reflected in his comments today about the possibility of staying. The only real criticism you could throw at the initial appointment, or the main criticism, was that it felt very short term. It was 18 months. It was kind of win the World Cup or you go home. But bit by bit, he seems to be getting his feet under the table and enjoying the job. We've seen interesting selections, like bringing in a player from Newcastle like Dan Burn in his 30s to kind of show that spirit he wants in the dressing room. Then he's shown things today like bringing out Alex Scott, his treatment of Tino Livramento, to let him go to the under-21s, which England won, to learn about tournament football with the idea that, you know, he's going to develop and therefore be a better player for England in years to come in World Cups and European Championships. So what he's done, I think, is a lot more than just that short-termism of let's go win a tournament. He's, from reading his words there, he sounds like he's enjoying the job. The prestige, obviously, that goes with it. It appeals to his nature of working with elite players. He's put his stamp on that squad, and I'm sure Ian and I will talk about Jude Bellingham. Tuchel has had a bit of a power battle with him, and it appears to be coming out on top. The other thing to say, though, is that we're heading into a major tournament, and past experience will tell you that it's not a good look for a manager to be running down a contract as the tournament comes into fruition. And the other element of that is, you know, you want to see something long term, and he is now saying, yeah, maybe I'll be happy to stay. And thus far, I think a lot of people are happy with the development. He's picking a team rather than picking star players. England are starting to show good energy in games, which hasn't always been the England way. So yeah, I'm sure the FA are delighted with those comments today, and we'll see where that goes.
Ian, I thought the general consensus was that if he wins the World Cup, he might stay, and whether he stays on as England coach basically depends on his success. Is he getting a bit ahead of himself by, saying that he's going to stay regardless of what happens at the World Cup?
Yeah, I think he absolutely is. I mean, the first thing to say is that if any journalist is in that press conference today who walks out having prompted the England manager to say something like that, will feel that he or she has done a very good job indeed. So that's the first thing I would say about it. Is he getting ahead of himself a little bit? Yeah, he is. I mean, he's only been in charge for 7 games, I think. And we talk about fun and how much he's been enjoying it. He wasn't enjoying it that much when England got beat at the City Ground by Senegal back in June, a game that I was at. He cut a very dejected figure indeed on that night. There has been distinct improvement since then. As we know, he has found a squad, he's found a way of playing, he's found a sense of harmony. He's made a big decision with Jude Bellingham, which at the moment he appears to be coming out on the right side of. But equally, since that game against Senegal, England have beaten Andorra, Serbia, Latvia, and Wales. So I think there's a bit of perspective required. I like Thomas. Spent quite a bit of time listening to him in his current role as England manager. And one of the things I've liked about him a lot recently is the way that he tends to keep things very much in perspective. He's talked a lot about how England have this habit of always talking themselves up ahead of major tournaments, and maybe they shouldn't. And I think he's right. He said we don't go to America as favourites. Because of lots of reasons, because of the climate, for example. And he's talked about how we just need to keep our feet on the ground a little bit. And then today he's come out and said something like this, admittedly, when he's been asked to, but he said it. I would argue that it's probably time to keep the foot on the ball a little bit, and let's see where we are when we get to America, see how we get on. Don't think he needs to win the World Cup to keep his job, but needs to have a good tournament for sure.
Yeah, of course. One of the most intriguing things that he said, I thought, during that press conference, Tuchel, was that he has a list of 55 to 60 players, maybe even more, that he's still considering. So it still very much sounds like a spot in the World Cup squad is very much up for grabs. Now, Ian, I'm going to stay with you because I know you've written about this in the inside pages of your newspaper, the Daily Mail, and you've spoken about Jude Bellingham, the fact that he has been recalled alongside Phil Foden. What do you make of the way that Tuchel has gone about handling that situation with Bellingham?
Well, all you can say is that at the moment, like I said a minute ago, he's come out on the wrong side of it. But when you make big decisions like this, essentially, you stand or fall by your results. And I said to Thomas in a press conference before the last round of games, when he'd left Bellingham out, he'd left Foden out, I said to him, you're taking a huge risk. You've left your best players out. And if you lose, I think it was against Wales, if you lose, then you're going to look like a chump. And he just looked at me and said, well, I won't. I've made that decision, and I made it for the right reasons. And it's impressive, his sense of conviction, the belief he has in himself. But equally, results do dictate everything. England played very, very well in the last international break without Bellingham. Tuchel will feel now that he's made his point. He talks a lot about the spirit of the collective. He talks a lot about leaving egos at doors. He talks a lot about how the interaction between players and between teammates, and how being a team will win a World Cup rather than individuals. He talks about that all the time. He was undoubtedly making a point in excluding Bellingham. Bellingham has responded very, very well. He's played well for Madrid, got himself back in the squad. What I will find interesting now is how he gets back into this team, and when he gets back into his team, and if he stays in this team. He's not going to play as a 6, because that would be Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson. Morgan Rogers is the 10 for Thomas Tuchel at the moment. Can Bellingham play as a false 9? I don't know. Would he be happy being an impact substitute? I doubt it. So there's a few questions to be answered, but I would say that those questions now have got to be answered by Jude Bellingham. Thomas Tuchel has made his point, and he's come out on the wrong side, on the right side of that argument. It's over to Jude Bellingham now.
Yeah, that is a big talking point, because Jude Bellingham's come back in, Phil Foden's come back in. The Tuchel says that Bellingham is a number 10. That's his best position. Tuchel has said that himself to us publicly. He's also said that Foden must play in the central part of the pitch. So are we looking at a situation here, Martin, where they're both vying for the same position on the pitch now?
Yeah, well, we've been down this road before, where we had a manager who said, let's play Frank Lampard, Steve Gerrard, Paul Scholes and Joe Cole, 4 central midfielders, and they will work it out. And you look back at the quality of that team, and yes, I know people get bored of talking about it, but it remains a failure that they didn't do better. And part of that reason may be something that Thomas Tuchel is dealing with here, whereby it was the same in the recent European Championships. You cannot just move Phil Foden to the left, Cole Palmer to the right if he gets fit, put Jude Bellingham as a 6 and play as his current number 10 is Morgan Rogers, and hope that those players are going to figure out what they're doing. At the minute, that Elliot Anderson and, as Ian said, and Declan Rice access in the middle of midfield has been a real find for him. And now it's a case of, I think people have missed the point in this argument. Nobody has said Jude Bellingham is not a really, really good player. You do not play for Real Madrid in the standard that he has if you are not, okay? But it's a case of, has he got the discipline tactically to play within Tuchel's shape and not go drifting to wherever he wants to be? And the other thing is, can he come in as with a slightly different attitude and not be barking at teammates to the point whereby he intimidates them so that they do not play as well as they can? They're the elements now. As Ian said, Tuchel has won this so far because the team has got better. And yes, it's not the greatest teams you're playing against, but you can only beat what is in front of you. But Tuchel has thus far come out ahead in this kind of mini battle he had. Those were strong words that he said about repulsive and quoting his mother or his grandmother at the time. That was a real political play from him, and he's done well with it thus far. And Morgan Rogers has proven himself to be a really, really good pick in that centre midfield role. Yeah. And the shape of the team has changed. But we now see what Jude Bellingham comes in as, and if he will be happy and as a substitute. And the next question will he be a happy traveller at the World Cup as a substitute as well? Yeah, of course, England taking on Serbia next Thursday. But before that, we've got a big weekend of Premier League action to come, including City taking on Liverpool at the Etihad in what will be Pep Guardiola's 1,000th game as a manager. Absolutely incredible, his win rate, the way he has transformed English football and beyond during his time in Barcelona and Bayern as well. Let's go to the back page of the Mail. Within the Mail, they say match day, Pep's just grand. But take a look at the picture, because this image of Pep Guardiola is from the 2022 parade. It's become an iconic image after City won the title. How important has Pep Guardiola been into English football in the way that he's pioneered a new playing style and, I suppose, inspired so many copycats as well?
I think you just said it. I think he absolutely has. People have copied him. I don't think that's. It sounds like a lazy thing to say, but I don't actually think it is. Coaches have, and they've copied him further down the league as well. I remember Wayne Rooney talking about it just after he'd come out of just after he'd come out of Birmingham, talking about how he tried to get his fullbacks to play the same way that Pep's fullbacks have played at City. Now, you could argue that Wayne didn't last very long at Birmingham, so that probably didn't work. But the fact that an intelligent footballer, football person like Wayne Rooney was happy to look at something Guardiola did and try to imitate it directly, I think says a lot. It has happened. It's happened in the Premier League. It's happened further down the leagues as well. You know, there's been a lot of talk this season about the way that football is changing, and the way that teams are playing, especially in the Premier League this season, has changed. But that happens in football. You know, the wheel turns, or the wheel turns. It was never going to stay the same because people work it out. I know that Thomas Tuchel, for example, at the moment, his England staff are absolutely aware of the way the game is changing in England, the way that it has changed, and the way that it's changed at an international level as well. So I think opposition have started to work out the Guardiola style of football. So he changes too. Look at the way they'll play against Liverpool on Sunday. They'll probably play more long passes against Liverpool on Sunday than they've probably ever played against Liverpool before. And that shows again the way that Guardiola is evolving, finding a new way to get even more out of Erling Haaland. And that is what the very best football coaches do. They set trends, but they don't stand still. They set trends and they use them until they work. And then when they stop working, they come up with something else. There is this prevailing thought at the moment that people say that Pep Guardiola has ruined football in England. I've heard that said. It's an utter load of nonsense.
Let's go to the Times. And Martin, in your paper, the headline, "I'm in the form of my life," Haaland warns Liverpool. And, there's no denying that. He is. How much will he be a factor? How do Liverpool solve the conundrum of stopping Erling Haaland? It's going to be another intriguing battle, isn't it, with Virgil van Dijk, presumably?
Yeah, he really is in the form of his life. And every time he kind of has a challenger in this country, I know last season everybody was saying Alexander Isak is now his equal. And at the minute, that's a bit of a mismatch. He seems to have moved up another level in terms of the goal scoring feats that he's achieving. Jimmy Carragher has come out and said he may be the person that drags Man City close to Arsenal in terms of winning the title, and also that he probably is, and according to somebody like Jimmy Carragher, the best centre forward that the Premier League has ever seen, which are huge things to say. Will he be the difference? This still feels like two teams in transition, but Liverpool away from home feel like the weaker of the two teams on this. Haaland will fancy his chances again of, continuing this phenomenal run this season. There will be the emotion there of this being Pep's 1000th game, and as Ian said there, he has transformed football in this country. Going back to, I think it was 2000, must have been 2016, when I was on Sunday Supplement arguing with another journalist who said Pep, and it was after the Man United derby at Old Trafford. I think Claudio Bravo had dropped one, and he said Man City will not be able to play out from the back the way Pep Guardiola likes his teams to do abroad. And I said that's why he's here. He will change the way that this game is played in this country, and it's right the way through. You're going right down to junior football, League One, League Two. Everybody plays a bit differently. I think you will get a celebration at Man City, which will create a powerful atmosphere of just how good he has done at that. Is it 550 games? I don't think anybody of the 1,000 will be at Man City. I don't think anybody foresaw him staying quite this long, but his impact on the game is great. Yeah. Liverpool, I don't think they're rhythm yet, and I think this is a very difficult game for them.
Yeah, what a matchup that will be. OK, Martin, Ian, for the moment, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including these two stories on the inside pages of The Guardian. An in-depth interview with the Coventry boss, Frank Lampard. Coventry flying high at the moment in the Championship. And Rob Edwards doesn't take Borough training amid Wolves' interest. Welcome back to Back Pages tonight. Martin Hardy and Ian Ladyman still with us. Let's go straight to The Guardian. Inside pages, we're talking Rob Edwards here because he missed training with Middlesbrough. He didn't host his press news conference either. So, Martin, how do you see this one playing out? What's going to happen here? And how much of a risk is it if he leaves Borough and decides to take on Wolves' role?
Well, as I sit here now, nothing has been decided. I think impasse might be the right word. There's been talks this afternoon between the Middlesbrough hierarchy, which we can safely say is the owner Steve Gibson and Rob Edwards. I think bit by bit we are realising that Rob Edwards would like to return to Wolverhampton Wanderers, a team where he spent a football club where he spent 10 years as player, coach, interim manager. His family still live in the Midlands. From Middlesbrough's perspective, however, this is a coach they give a job to in the summer, and we are only 14 games into that. They've done well. They're pushing for promotion place. I spent time with Rob yesterday, and it's an interview that may yet come off the cutting room floor because it was done just before Wolves made their first approach for Rob Edwards, which was turned down. As it stands, Rob Edwards is the manager of Middlesbrough Football Club, and I think it's going to need a significant offer of compensation from Wolves to unlock that. But that would appear, if you're going to push really hard for me to answer that, where we probably will end up. But that's not to say Middlesbrough will not fight their corner strongly here. They have a good young manager doing well, who they took a shot on and has a contract till 2028. There is also, obviously, for their perspective, they would have to find a replacement, which is not easy, as Wolves themselves have found out. So yeah, it's ongoing, but the movement pushes towards Rob Edwards returning to a football club that he supported as a child.
Ian, for you, it would mean Edwards going from a club that's high-flying in Middlesbrough to a club that in real trouble, rock bottom of the Premier League. Could he be the man to turn things around for Wolves?
He's a very, very good coach. Does a very, very good job at Luton. He's done a very good job at most places that he's been to. I hear what Martin says. I won't repeat that about his affection for the club he played for. The other factor I think at play here is that Rob Edwards knows how difficult it is to be a manager. He knows how quickly things can turn. He did a great job at Luton, but he didn't keep them in the Premier League, and it wasn't that long after, as they slid back into Championship and kept sliding, that he was out of work. So he knows how you can go from it's the flavour of the month to being unemployed very quickly as a football manager. English managers in particular don't get offered Premier League jobs very, very often. This is a very difficult Premier League job, but it is a Premier League job. Middlesbrough are a massive football club, but they're not in the Premier League and have not been in the Premier League for a long time, and Wolves are. And I think that, at the end of the day, might be the decisive factor.
OK, staying with the Premier League and talking Manchester United now, their defender Lenny Yoro has discussed the difference at the club this season compared to last season, where he admits that it's not as emotional as last year at United. Martin, for you, he's been quite honest here and said basically that the atmosphere has changed around the club. How key has that been to their recent success and getting their season back on form, do you think?
Yeah, it's a curious one because in that interview he mentions the fact that there is no European football this season, which kind of gets rid of the chaos of a bad result and the problems and the reaction that would get for Manchester United. That also means that Ruben Amorim has had more time with his players in the training ground, something when you talk to managers who are in Europe this season, they say there was just no time whatsoever. Amorim's had the possibility to work with these players. It does feel more unified. I don't think we are talking about the rediscovery of the wheel here in terms of what Man United are doing, and I think there are potentially further problems down the road. But they look more unified, and I think in that interview he says, if we are not together, we will achieve nothing. So they signed well in the summer, certainly in terms of Cunha and Mbeumo have made a great difference. Yoro is a really good young player, and the chaos that he was kind of thrust into in the middle of last season didn't do him any favours. But there is a little bit of calm there now, and that's reflected in his words here in this interview.
We have to talk Coventry as well. We mentioned it earlier, how well Frank Lampard is doing with the club. They are top of the Championship table. They've scored 39 goals this season, more than any team in the English professional leagues. They're absolutely flying. And there's been a really nice interview done by Ben Fisher in The Guardian. And in that double-page spread, he says, I want to prove everybody wrong all the time. It's a really good driving force. It sounds Ian, from this interview, that Lampard likes being in the thick of things. He's right in the middle of training, getting in and amongst his players. It seems to be working for him. He's really been successful so far this season.
Yeah, Frank has always been a boots on the grass coach. It's always the way that he's done it. It's the way that he wants to do it. Remember, Coventry was so far down the Championship when he took over. It's a really interesting choice of club for him. I went to see Frank last year. I won't pretend it was for an exclusive interview. It wasn't. It was for a press conference. But when I got there, I was just about the only person there, so it felt like one. And one of the things that he said that day to the couple of us who were in the room was how much he'd enjoyed working at Coventry because it was out of the limelight. And that he wasn't being disrespectful to Coventry. He was just saying that being away from the Premier League and being able to work in a way where there weren't kind of 50 journalists in the room every Friday, every game wasn't on match of the day, and he could just kind of find himself again and get back to working again, and maybe kind of clear his head a little bit after what had happened at Chelsea and places like that. And that has obviously worked for him. Came very close last year in the playoffs. He did a fantastic season, and look at the way he's carried it on.
Yeah.
All I will say is that the way he's going, he won't be out of the limelight much longer if he gets Coventry back up into the Premier League.
Yeah, it'd be a magnificent achievement. Ian Ladyman and Martin Hardy, thank you for your company on Back Pages. It's been a pleasure. If you missed any of the show, there's another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. As always, the show is available as a podcast as well. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.